If you're thinking about how do I grow my list before I launch my offer, here's what you need to think about. A webinar is the fastest way to grow your list. Hosting a webinar is also the best way to fill your course. So when you lead a webinar, you can both grow your list and fill your course at the same time. And there's 4 things that you need to really think about, including in that webinar, to make sure that you're attracting the right people and that you're moving those people into action. So if you're like most of the people that we get to work with in our Create Six Figure Courses community, you are probably trying to figure out, how do I grow my following, my list, so that I can launch my course and reach the people that I really want to work with? Well, most people are doing both at the same time. They're looking to grow their following while they're working on creating their offer and putting their work out there. The fastest way to grow your list is to lead a webinar for your audience. And why webinars? Why do they work so well? Well, a webinar, when you lead that, it creates this experience that your people have of you as a teacher. So they get to see you teaching, they get to experience the opportunity they have with you to solve the problem, and you get to give them something in a webinar that they can apply, which gives them confidence that working with you is going to really help them get results. So webinars are a great way for experts like you to connect with your audience. And it's one piece of content that you can create that can help you grow your list fast. The first webinar that I led was designed to lead into my first course. I have been running that webinar for years. It has connected me with over 80,000 people. One webinar. And so I want you to think about, wow, what if I just had one thing like a webinar that could help me massively grow my reach? Now, what do you need to include in that webinar? Let's talk about that, because in a webinar, let's say a webinar is about an hour, right? You're designing this content to share with your audience. What do you need to think about including that's going to make your webinar really stand out? So there's 4 things I want you to think about, and we're going to walk through them and I'll give you some ideas on how to really think about what content to include in your webinar. So the first thing is this. The first thing that you want to really think about is, what is the number 1 question that your audience has? So when they're thinking about the topic that you are an expert in, that you're going to be teaching in your program or your course, what is their big question? This is the question you want to lead with in your webinar. You're going to be answering that question in your webinar. And it's really important to think about that question in the terms of what your audience would ask, okay? So think about their question. The second thing that you want to think about is you want to think about giving them information that they can apply right away. So I like to use like a 10-minute rule with this. So if somebody's coming into your webinar and you give them something they can go do in that webinar, can they do it in 10 minutes? Can they leave that webinar, go apply it, get an impact from that? Because there's a temptation to give people checklists and exercises and reflections in webinars. But if it's too much, I'm going to go to your webinar and go, wow, that was great. Now let me go off and do all this work and I'll see you, in a few weeks after I'm finished. The point of the webinar is to establish that you're a guide that can help your people get results. And the goal is to get them to take action and to move forward in getting that result with you. So think about that 10-minute rule as you're building your content. The third thing to think about is make sure you give a clear next step. So when I leave your webinar, what is it that you want me to do? And for most of us, what we want our audience to do is to go to the information page about the offer that relates to doing deeper dive work with you. So be really clear as you're designing this what you want people to do next. The 4th thing to think about is overcoming the barriers. Now, what I mean by that is that it's really tempting in a webinar to share a sample of your content, or to teach your steps, or to share more about what you know. And that's all great. And I can come to your webinar, I can learn all these things from you. But if deep down, I have some barrier that's preventing me from moving forward with you, even if your content's great and I think you're great, I'm not going to move forward. If I think, oh, gee, I'm not going to be able to do this, or oh, gee, I don't have time for this, or wow, I'm not ready for this, right? That mental barrier is going to prevent me from working with you. So one of the things we really work on when we're designing webinars in our community is to think, okay, what are the barriers to entry And when you design your webinar content, are you breaking through that? And you can break through that with the content you teach, the stories you tell, and the way that you have your audience rethink the way they're thinking about the work that they could be doing with you so that they can get the result that they really want. So 4 ways: answering that top question, making sure you're giving just enough information they can apply immediately, giving them a clear call to action around what to do with you next, and making sure that your content's overcoming those barriers to entry that are keeping your people from getting the results they could be getting with you. So let me know what you're thinking about as it relates to growing your reach with a webinar. What's your biggest question? I'd love to hear from you. You can share it in the comments. I will circle back, and I'm excited to see you do both, right? Grow your list and create an offer at the same time, because that's the fastest way to attract the people that really want to do work with you.